Hello, everyone. Welcome to Angie's Drama Room. I am your meeting host, Angie, where I do drama reviews on all things drama, focusing mostly on Asian dramas. And today is going to be just a roundup. I'm not going to call it the Midweek Roundup at this point, but however, it's a roundup of the shows I am either currently watching, stopped watching, or still in the midst of watching. And at this point, I believe it's more about stop watching and the midst of watching. And it's going to be a combination of both Chinese and Korean. Japanese shows, before I go on, I've been, okay, you know what? I have not done a lot of Japanese dramas. So I started to try to watch some of them. But however, I did enjoy a lot of their previous Japanese dramas, rom-coms. However, lately it's no substance. There's really no plot. It's just basically actor and actresses acting out a story. Japanese dramas are either 8 or 10 episodes. And I kind of stopped short about episode 4 or 5, okay, because it just kind of is nothing more driven to continue to watch. There are the actor and actresses in these shows are very good actors, but however, the storyline kind of just lays flat. I think I only maybe watched one all the way through in the recent months, was called Silent, and it was about a high schooler who lost his hearing, and then in his college, and then he re-met his love interest later on in life, and he lost his hearing. So that's kind of was interesting. But now the one I stopped watching was, I can't even remember the name of it. He falls into a coma in the second episode. And so it was weird. And so now he's in a coma, and the girl liked him when they were in high school. So she pretty much quit. She pretty much stopped becoming advancing her work in order to take care of him, which he had his family, and they told him don't do it, but she did it anyway. So anyway, but however, and it just kind of got a little bit weird. Now everybody just kind of congregated around him, playing with them, talking and whatever. But however, anyway, so let's just go into what I was talking about now. I'm going to leave the timestamps in the description of the shows. And yeah, let's talk about a couple of Chinese dramas first. The Double. I'm like, oh my gosh, what kind of Handmaid's Tale is this? I'm watching it, I feel like I'm sinning. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was weird. And unfortunately, I did not finish watching everything. I'm quite sure I've been seeing a lot of people saying it's a very good thing, but it was like, I'm just going to jump to the point where, okay, of course, she gets caught in bed with another man by her husband. Of course, it was staged. Of course, we knew it was fake, but the husband thought it was real because he was listening to us. I'm assuming it was the princess at the time. And she was I call her a socialite. Okay. So the princess told him that he needed to kill her, right? So he picks her up, puts her in this wagon, pretending that everything is lovey, lovey, dovey, and she's like amorous and telling, oh, I'm so glad you forgave me, and oh, whatever. Technically, I can't remember what happened, but I know she's in this wagon. He didn't poison her at the time, but he sedated her. She wakes up, hands tied now, in a ditch. Like, oh my gosh. And she's waking up for this, right? And she's not even fighting. She's just sitting there in the ditch. It was like, and the way the director wrote it was all dark and gloomy, and I'm like, okay. And so he's like, crying, and she's like, oh. So he's like, and then she's like, just send me to my father, my brother, I guess. And they say, oh, they did. They killed him because of you having an affair, but which we know she didn't. So this big old ditch, where's the dirt? I'll leave that alone. He dumps her, so he buries her. All of a sudden, you see this hand pop up. Like, So if you could have got away, why didn't you get away then? I guess maybe it makes sense. Well, okay. So she was able to, after the dirt piled upon her, this big old ditch she has, tons of dirt piled upon her, she was able to free herself, get her hand up in the thing, and come out of this. She was being buried alive. She comes out of the dirt, only to later, she feels like she just has nothing, no life left in her. She was going to drown herself. Then we have this maiden come in. Now, this is where the handmaiden tale comes in. This is like, oh my gosh. We had this maiden come in with her servant. I don't even know what they call her, but you know, her lady in waiting, I guess you want to call it. I don't know. So she comes in, stops her from killing herself, telling her it's okay, you can make it. Brings her back to this convent. I don't even know if they called it a convent, because it wasn't. No, I don't know what this was. And brought her back to this because the maiden, when she was little, her stepmother didn't like her. So she faked some falling down the steps or what have you, and convinced her father to throw her into this seminary type of thing. I don't know what this little thing was. And everybody was wearing this little white stuff and looking like Handmaid's Tale. And I'm like, oh, and the director likes these little tight shots with the big old wide eyes. And I'm like, oh, what am I watching here? So then she gets caught doing something. I'm assuming, I don't know, I guess because she's going out and coming in. I don't know. She gets caught doing something. Then they started flogging her, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And the way they were made it, the director had it, she was sounding like it was all sensual. She's getting flogged. I can't even do it. And so I'm like, okay. So now she's succumbs to her injuries, the maiden, because the maiden's being flogged. So the socialite came up with a scheme in order to revenge the maiden and revenge herself, decided to swap places and convinced the leader of this seminary convent, I don't know, to go along with it, because she kind of convinced her, if she did, this will be on your head that this girl died. Okay. And so, but the servant was like, servant didn't play. She's like, she was about ready to fight them all. But, the socialite was like, no, calm down. Let's, instead of doing that, let's take revenge. So it's a revenge type show. Then we got the girl coming through here, right? And so she kind of convinced, I don't know who this old lady was that told the servant to go get this old lady. So she convinced the servant to get this old lady to come back in order to save him, right? To convince that she was that little girl that was thrown into this seminary thing. And while she was waiting in a chapel, here come our Snowstorm of Love cousin, swooping in, chasing after some guy, and she told the guy to go hide over here. And so he comes in, and again, tight looks, tight faces, right? And he's all of a sudden embarrassing and falling googly over this girl. And so she was like, handcuff me, take me away. I didn't do anything wrong, but if you wanted to, literally, right? I'm like, what in the world? She's already trying to get saved right now by this old woman. But however, she's like doing this. And so that's where I stopped. I was like, okay, I'm done. I was like, and I like the cousin on Snowstorm of Love, and he was handsome. But to be truthfully honest, because it's the same look he had on Snowstorm of Love, there was no difference. So it's just like watching that again, even though it's a period piece costume type drama. So he had a different look, but his hair and everything else is the same. So I was like, but it was like weird. So yeah, let me know what you thought about that one. Then we have the other one called The Princess Royal with Zhao Jume. Now, that one was weird too. So apparently what happened was, it starts off, she's in her 40s. They didn't really age her anyway. They didn't really do anything. So she was 20 plus in her 40s, right? So you're supposed to just assume that. And a lot of this times, it's like you wouldn't have known that. You had to read descriptions, to be truthfully honest, the synopsis of the storyline in order to figure out what's really going on in these shows, because they kind of just put you in it and just tell you to go for it. I was watching another YouTuber, and that's what she was saying. She was supposed to be in 40. Okay, so she's in her 40s. So she thought her, well, it wasn't necessarily ex-husband, but her estranged husband, because they didn't actually have, I don't think they actually officially divorced. I don't know. I don't remember. Was trying to kill her, slowly killing her through poison. And so she had this person in her ear convincing her that this was going on. So right before she died, she sent out a decree to go and kill him, because he killed her. I'm going to kill you. Okay. So she dies, but so she comes back to life 20 years earlier, right before she was supposed to get married. Okay. So it sounds like the Korean show I was watching. So then, of course, the only difference between the two were just the costumes she was wearing, because she wasn't the empress, because that went to her brother at the time, and her father died during that time too. So the only difference between the two really was the costumes that they were wearing between when she was 40 and when she was younger. And even when they did the flashbacks, you just really had to watch and know, okay, wait a minute, this is a flashback. And so she wakes up and she's looking around. First, she was a little bit startled, but then she kind of got used to what was going on, and that was it. I'm like, what? You just died and came back to life, and you're like, okay, but okay, fine. I'm working with you on this, right? And so now they came to find out. So this is right before she was supposed to get married. And the weird part about this whole thing really is not really her dying and coming back to life. The weird part is it was like the princess, she's doing something. And the father's like, oh, she knows what she's doing. The emperor at the time when he was still alive was doing his thing. And with the brother was doing their thing, but then she was just like, oh, she was just doing a thing. I have nothing to say who she's going to marry. But the dad told her she had to marry. But it was always that was always the going line. The reason why she was doing this. Oh, she knows what she's doing. And even when she went to jail with her and her estranged husband, because again, he died and went back, and he took it more easier, took it more faster than she did. I mean, when they finally cut to him, when he died, he was just like sitting at the table, and it already came to him like, oh, okay, I'm back in my 20-year-old self. Okay. And this went on with like everything was cool. I'm like, almost like a reincarnation thing, and we're understanding the reincarnation. I was like, oh my gosh, you just died and came back to life in your 20-year-old self. He ended up going to jail. So because of the death of another suitor who was part of the border control. And so he died because it was a thing. And so I think that's why, I can't remember. Again, I was barely watching it. And so he goes to jail first. And then she said, well, if he's in jail, I guess I'm about ready to be next. They went to the brother at the time and said, your sister is in jail. And the brother was like, oh, she knows what she's doing. It's like, this is all you're getting. I'm like, okay, she knows what she's doing. So I was like, okay. And I got up until the point where I guess, okay, I got to the jail, but prior to the jail, I guess it just didn't they just kind of went through the motions of the show, and the costumes were really nice. The direction was nice, but the story was they kind of just acting through the story, and they did a lot of walking and talking, and and it's just basically doing the normal costume drama acting that you really would see. And they did throw in a little bit of the acrobats. I can't I don't want to botch what they call it, pronounce it, but they did a little bit of that in there too, just to get you stirred up a little. So they had that little, bouncing off of roofs and twirling and switching and, to me, Zhao Germain, she is very beautiful and she's a very good actress, and she did a really great job in acting. But I didn't like the only thing also I didn't like was she did kind of, when she was, when they young herself and she knew that her husband was trying to kill her, makes sense though. But she didn't, at this point, she didn't know her husband died. This was her dead husband who came back to life too. So she didn't know at this time. So she started bullying him during the whole courtship thing. And so he was, and so she kind of came to her senses when she knocked him in the water. But even when she knocked him in the water, she was like, oh, he was just a immature 20-year-old when he was younger. He didn't know what was going on. So she kind of decided to mellow out a little bit, but however, she forced him to eat the citric fruit and knowing that he was allergic to it. I guess that was her last farewell, hurrah for the revenge thing on him at that point. Because at that point, from there on, that's when they found out they were both dead and came back to life. And that's when they found out that, trying to figure out how all this stuff happened. So that was my impression. And again, I stopped at the jail scene, I believe. And then I was, so those are the two Chinese ones I was watching. The Korean shows I watched, I did my last impression on my Sweet Mobster. I stopped at the 10th episode. It was nothing more driven. I tried to watch the 11th episode. And literally it was just on. Again, they had romantic tropes here and there, but it was nothing really driven to continue to watch the show. It was, and even the male lead in that one, he didn't have enough oomph to bring in the romance. It was very, because I guess they tried to do it like a bad boy type of thing with a soft heart. But it didn't work. And when they were trying to get a romantic connection between the two, there was never any. I didn't feel it. the two actresses really didn't drive the show enough for me to continue, and I really didn't care at that point or what happened to them afterwards. And then I'm still watching Miss Night and Day. There really was. It was a lot of just going back and forth, just talking back and forth and trying to solve this case. But however, I still kind of watched it I liked how the older self of her, I think it was Lim Sun, she's a really good actress. To me, they're trying to play off a lot of these older Korean actresses, and she's really good. I really enjoy watching her. I think she can carry a show very well. And they added the younger person, Min Ji. To be truthfully honest, I think they kind of just threw in the romantic side between the prosecutor and Min Ji they kind of just threw that in there. And to be truthfully honest, the Min Ji, her younger self, she really didn't have much role. It really was focusing really on the older version. And so she was just there, I think, just so people can watch the show. Okay. In order to just bring in the younger audience too. And now here we are in episode 14. They did have their first kiss. She tried to kiss him one time, but the prosecutor blocked it. A couple episodes later, then he actually went in and they had a couple of kisses and they had their little sweet moments together. But I think to me, they kind of just pushed it in there and gave it to us. That's it. There was no presentation. There you go. There's the romantic. And so, but however, okay, cute. She's adorable. The Miji, she's very pretty and very adorable. I like her. And I like the prosecutor. So yeah, I'll continue to watch that. All right, so those are the episodes of Chinese shows and Korean shows that I am middle watching right now, or I just kind of stopped watching again. My Sweet Mobster, I stopped watching, and the two Chinese dramas, The Double and Princess Royal, it didn't really draw me anymore, so I stopped watching those two. But it was interesting to watch what I watched. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscriptions. Thank you for watching all of my shows. I appreciate it. Please subscribe and just be able to see my other future reviews. If you want me to see a review, let me know. Drop a comment. Thank you for watching. Media adjourned.